Hello, and welcome to Chat Book Reviews 104. Lots of Reinfelds, this is called. I'm looking at some books by the late, he's been dead for about 60 years. Books by the US master, prolific author indeed, Fred Reinfeld. Now, the first of these is, like all of them, is quite good, but maybe not very good, but it is quite good. It's called Improve Your Chess. Old-fashioned book, old-fashioned cover. Got it for £1.50 in a charity shop, which you in the US might call a thrift shop. And uninterestingly enough, there's a sticker there for Chess Sutton Coldfield. It's gone a bit black, but it's nevertheless good old B.H. Wood. This was once owned by Mr. Castle in 1958 and cost him 5 shillings, the old 5 bob. It's called subtitles, The 9 Bad Moves and How to Avoid Them. And it was first published in the late 1950s, it looks like. There's a table of what the pieces are worth. So the queen 9, rook 5, bishop 3, knight 3, and pawn 1. Another way of saying that would be that you're valuing the pieces in terms of the pawn as the basic unit. It also has how to do English descriptive notation. That is. That might not look very forthcoming, but it gives you a basis if you want to read the book. After all, if you can't follow it and you can't read the book, well, give up material for less valuable material, for less material of the enemy. That's a sacrifice. Pins, files. Well, there we are. Disastrous pawn moves. F6. Pawn to king's bishop 3. Look at that. There you are. There you are. Just for once, I think I held it steady enough. This is called Neglected Development of Your Pieces. Making too many queen moves in the opening. Yes, this is an example of the Budapest defense. I've been playing this a lot online. About 100 times. I've had some interesting games with it. You can play knight to knight 5. Knight g4. That moves 3. A very lively game. There's a book by Andrew Martin, which I've got, on the Budapest, but I have to be honest, I've scarcely opened it. I have opened it, but not to study the various ramifications. But I would very strongly recommend it as a blitz weapon. You get a bit of fun out of it, and you might get a few, not just wins, but quick wins. It is based on a knowledge of traps and some short-term tactics. And let's face it, there's nothing wrong with that. Pawn grabbing based on miscalculation, and they're showing a dragon. There's something white has set up on Roxy bind, and black has very foolishly, see the queen on b2, black queen, gone pawn hunting, only to discover he's wandered into the enemy's camp, never to return. Grabbing pawns thoughtlessly. The best advice about getting pinned is don't. It's easier said than done. Easier said than done. Losing a one game. Yes. It's an interesting example of that. White. This one, yeah. White plays queen takes rook, taking the queen away from the center. Sorry, the rook away from the back rank, its own first rank. And then a series of checks ensues. He could actually have won, but he played the checks in the wrong order. Play the E rook up. These are the braces. You play the E rook up. See that? Look again. Queen takes rook, rook takes rook, and he played rook c8, which is a mistake because rook d8 parries it. So that's the first of the books. The next is called The Way to Better Chess, with a foreword by Al Horowitz. Al Horowitz, like Reinfeld, was an American master. This book was written, or came out in the same year, originally as 1959, as did I come out in 1959, but it was reprinted in 1973. So many books came out after Fisher-Spassky to eat up the market. As a little boy, I was able to cash in, and by goodness, did I have a nice time. Winning traps in the openings. I don't like the notation in this. It's a bit small. No, it's not. It's not got much to recommend it in terms of the fonts. I'll just give you. Yeah, you see what I mean. I mean, once you get your brain out, you can work it out. But for all of that, I'd rather have bold strike and how to find creative resources, it says. Oh, we all need that, don't we, in life? Right? Grand practitioners have not the leisure to be analytes. This is from John Aubrey. Aubrey was a playwright, wasn't he? He was certainly English. I wish I hadn't read that out. It doesn't sound very good. What the chess master thinks about, this is called. Well, there you are. One thing he doesn't think about is reading books by Fred Reinfeld. But if you're not a chess master, I still think they contain a lot of decency and goodness. There's that. Now, I had this book when I was a little boy. Ella Barden very kindly published a note saying who this is on the cover. There's not many people left who would know. He was an amateur player, but he looks rather good. Yeah, look. Unfortunately, Fred Reinfeldt very good at selecting material, but in this case, I don't think the games in here are that well selected. It's quite a big book, nearly 300 pages. Explains the moves and the rules. Some of the games at the back are Well, perhaps the best they could have chosen. Double columns, let me show you. Bold strike for the moves, which is what I like, which I said just now. But let's see if this book also, it was reprinted, it was written in 1954 and reprinted in 1963. And it's in English, Iron Spotted Wood. Talks about the openings, about 30 openings in groups alphabetically. Then it tells you how to play chess, in case you didn't know. And in case you didn't know, you know how the pieces move. Crosses on the possible options. See that with the bishop, white bishop. See? There. It is. See, that's quite good, isn't it? If you ever wondered how to move the bishop, now you know. And if you don't know how to move the bishop, it's because you haven't got this book, which I recommend. They're not as highly as some of the others. Deals with tactics, basic endgames. Now there's an interesting position with one pawn and a bishop against two black pawns. See that? That one there. If you could solve that in half a second, then you'd be a good player. Yes. An average enough book. But this next one, for a small book, is terrific. This is a really good book. It's a Fowlsham publication, published in 1973, once again, blah, blah, blah. It starts off with an opening that you all know, and then it gives little notes on tactics and how to exploit premature attacks, how to exploit black's weakening pawn moves, and so forth. Capablanca's freeing maneuver, e5, pawn to king4, queen's gambit there. There you go. Opening mistakes white should avoid. Yes, we're still making them. Fred, you've been dead for 60 years, mate, but we're still making them. White mistakes, opening mistakes white should avoid. These methods are valid and useful as long as white does not violate the rules of good opening play. Chapter 8. Really good book. Now this is called Joys of Chess. And the worst thing about it is the stupid cover. Two funny old men with a bottle of drink. I'm horribly afraid a chessboard ran the wrong way, but I might be wrong. What do you think? Chessboard ran the wrong way? No, this was published in 1959, like all the others. This is a Collier book. That's the publishers. It has an introduction by Al Horowitz. And it was published originally in 1961, and it reappeared in 1974, published by Collier, who didn't publish the earlier one. It contains beautiful combinations, it says. Yes, it does. There's a problem by Bent Larson. I've never seen anything by Larson before. Something else. See that? B. Larson. King and Queen and Pawn against a king and a pawn. Just because you're lots of material up, it doesn't mean to say that you can administer a quick decapitation, does it? Game between Spielmann and Reiti, and it's a king's gambit. What a spectacle. Rudolf Spielmann, self-appointed missionary of the King's Gambit, encounters his fellow Viennese Richard Reiti, who a few years later is to become one of the founders of the revolutionary school of hypermodern chess. Spielmann, a veteran at 30, gives his younger opponent a convincing thrash. Well, that's nice. This book is, as are so many of these, and don't let this put you off, in English descriptive notation. Teach yourself both systems, algebraic and descriptive. Don't give up until you've mastered them both, and so as you can record your games or discuss openings in both systems. It's a game by Vera Menchik. Since women have been progressing so rapidly in other fields, it is surprising they still have not made comparatively little progress as first-class chess players. Miss Menchik was the best to date, and she had some fine wins to her credit, but she was very far from being the top rank. Well, Fred, perhaps so, but she was probably a better player than you were. I'm not sure about that, but yeah. Here's a game by Mr. Horowitz himself, who wrote the introduction, as I said. The Four Musketeers. That's Moscow Borowski, the one and only Tartakova there. Game played in Paris, 1940. Tartakova would turn up in cafes, probably the worst for drink, and he would play games against people he knew who would fund him a few quid. It's a very high-level game, played at Stockholm 1948 between Boleslavsky and Mr. Book. Mr. Book played the mainline Najdorf. So this is based on master games, grandmaster games for that matter, played around the time just after the Second World War, I suppose you would say. Very famous positions analysed. There are many checks, but only one mate. Russian proverb. From Anderson, I learned how to make combinations. From Tarrasch, I learned how to avoid making them. I think what he meant was I avoid making bad ones. I don't think he meant all good players play combinations, don't they? Place the contents of the chessboard in your hat. Shake them up vigorously. Pour them on the board at the height of 2 feet and get the style of Steinitz. That's wonderfully graphic, isn't it? And I know exactly what you mean. Methodical thinking is of more use in chess than inspiration. C.J.S. Purdy, the Australian, who was the first world correspondence champion. I'd like to have met him. Surely chess is a sad waste of brains. Sir Walter Scott. I would think probably writing a book called Ivanhoe was a sad waste of brains as well, but no one thinks to say that back at you. Yes, this has got lots of stuff in it. In-game studies. And a little cartoon. Greeting his wife. I won't read out the little caption. You've got to buy the book and find out yourself. Capablanca had no opportunity as yet to play against the opening of the preceding rounds, but he seemed quite unconcerned. He conducted the game with easy nonchalance and uncomplicated directness, which had always distinguished his style and which had carried him to the high place of chess. After 10 or 12 moves, he not only obtained perfect equality, but even the shade better of it. It says Jose Raul Capablanca, idol of the chess world. Well, I hope he was. Another possible explanation has been given by the biographer and pupil of Freud, Dr. Ernest Jones. Jones points out the peculiar character of the game of chess. It is also known as a war game. Killing the king, checkmate, means the king is dead. It does indeed, Charmat. So that now there is only one square left on the board. Sorry, one king left alive on the board. Your own, hopefully. He trots out all the words, complex words that Pillsbury was supposed to memorize. How to record your games. Oh, that's interesting. The introduction is written by the author. And he was in Scotland. Just check that again. Edinburgh, 1961. Didn't know that Reinfeld ever came to England. Well, in that case, Scotland. There we are. Two horrible old men on the cover. Two more to go. This is the counterpart to the white pieces I showed you earlier, the red book. Here we've got the hardback version of it. I had a white one of this and I stupidly let it go. Here's a picture of Fred himself on the back. I don't often see pictures of him. Well, it's an artist's impression, a sketch. Fred Reinfelds is a native of New York. It was at the city schools and at City College that he began his chess playing. Prolific writer with more than 50 chess books to his credit. I've got them all. No, I haven't. But I've got, as you see, 7 so far. And these he plays over various openings, shows you variations. And I often go over these. And I find things, not that are better than the modern books, but that are not necessarily overlooked by authors because they think, well, you know that, don't you? Well, sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. And if I do, I can feel superior to it. And if I don't, I might learn something. And then I have every right to feel superior, not to the book, but to my opponents who hopefully know better than I am. I have to seize the attack. Interesting cover. There we are. One more. This was written after Fred Reinfeld died, which is about 1965, I think. This was put together by his family. 2 weeks to winning chess. Quick and easy chess course for beginners, adapted by Beatrice Reinfeld. Well, I'm here to tell you, Mrs. Reinfeld, that this is a really good book. I've been going through a lot of this recently. It's mostly on middle games or just after the openings, and you have to decide what you do. Quite detailed. Rui Lopez attack. Something about psychology. How to think. Think about this game before going on to the next lesson. Was there ever better advice? Eh? Was there ever better advice? Do any of us do that? Maybe some of us do, maybe some of us don't. How to attack an undeveloped position. In other words, get out and fight. An airplane check. It shows pictures, diagrams, which are photographs of the actual chess pieces themselves. Not everybody will be used to this or like it, but it adds a little variation. I hope you'll agree. How to think as a chess player. Learning by doing, it says. It's properly indexed, which I appreciate. Some books can't be bothered. They could be. There's a quiz at the back. In other words, you've got to try and work out what move came next. If not, you can look at the answers at the back. But you know, set the position up. Lesson 13, rook endings. Ooh. If you're good at rook endings, you're good at chess. Rooks are the par excellence, the pieces that thrive on open lines. I bet they do too. This book was published by Doubleday, in other words, Americans publisher. There we are. I like the cover as well. It's a nice sort of conservative green, isn't it? Right. That's everything. That's 7 books. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe down below. Very important. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.